Right. Oh, you know what? I'm going to sit up straight and I'm going to do that forever now. Forever and always, I'm going to sit up straight. That behavior doesn't last because it is something that you have to continually think about in order to make it happen, right? Like it's not a habit like slouching is.
We try to stretch out the space between our shoulder blades more.
Uh-huh.
And the phenomenon of that, right, is a stretching activity, especially a passive stretch where there's no tension actually being generated through the muscle.
Mhm.
Whereas again, we're just trying to peel, as like you got a something sticky on a screen or something, you're just trying to peel that sucker off, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of what we're doing when we do a passive stretch. And in that activity, it's literally telling that muscle to stop working. That is what we do when we are stretching something out. Or we palpate, right?
Mhm.
We might think like I need to get a lacrosse ball or a deep tissue massage, or we might get our sweet honey, to jam an elbow in some place
Uh-huh.
we can't get ourselves. Again, I've had experiences where I've gone to a massage therapist and I've told them like, man, I got neck pain and things of that nature, and where do they go? Man, right to that spot.
Yeah.
And it's the same. It's called the Golgi tendon response, I believe.
Mhm.
It is effectively a phenomenon within the muscle bellies that when you basically, again, it's that same thing. You put a long enough signal in one spot of the body,
Mhm.
the brain will send a signal like, shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're tired of this. This is annoying. And then you get a relief. But it's
Mhm.
commonly will last a breath or two.
Right. Well, yeah.
About 30 seconds or so, and then it just kind of comes back until we get distracted or we do something inadvertently to make it go better.
So in mobility mechanics, we call that, or I call that, the offending behavior. Like you just described, John. You have this shoulders forward, neck down, or neck tilted kind of a thing. If you find that you're hunched forward a lot, and that's low back pain inducing. I'm hunched over, I'm folded forward a lot of my day. So I get this idea that if I fold even further forward, like go stand up and do a forward bend and allow my low back to quote unquote stretch out, and I do these twists and shit while I'm in it, right? With significantly deviated posture. Or I have a head craned forward and my neck hurts and what have you. And so I do this thing where, fucking Harvard Medical School, those recommendations that I read yesterday, where they recommend if you're having neck strain, neck pain from really bad posture, bring an arm up, bring your elbow across your chest and basically squeeze it and keep your shoulder pulled down until you feel a stretch in the arm and the shoulder and in the back of the neck and the whatever. That does feel better, but it's a static stretch that mimics the offending behavior,
Yeah.
right? And if you're doing something that is mimicking or furthering the offending behavior, there's no way to undo it. That relief will only last as long as you are either committing to that passive offending behavior or until you go and commit to the offending behavior again. So let me put it like this. When I'm doing that kind of a stretch with across my arm, or roguish, if you ever stand up and do a forward bend to get rid of that back pain, right? And then you go right back down, and then you go immediately after you're done back into, as John's representing right now, right? This hunched posture or whatever else, that pain's going to very quickly return. Let's say that you do something like, I don't even have to ask, roguish nerd, if you have reminded yourself over your 34 years of life to sit up straight more often. It's a virtual guarantee that you have, right? Oh, you know what? I'm going to sit up straight and I'm going to do that forever now. Forever and always I'm going to sit up straight. That behavior doesn't last because it is something that you have to continually think about in order to make it happen, right? Like it's not a habit like slouching is. And as soon as your brain starts really devoting brain power to the things that you're trying to actually get accomplished in your day, you are going to forget about that. And you might get some subtle reminders, but really, the amount of time that you're going to spend doing them is it like you said, John, it diminishes over time. And so you might say something like, "Well, but it feels better when I put on this athletic tape or this KT tape, or when I do stretches that, like I said earlier, mimic the offending behavior, or you go get a massage or a chiropractic adjustment." Not shitting on any of that, none of it at all.
And they're actually can be very useful
Mm-hmm.
if paired with
Yes,
something
with,
else.
with active care, right? So, like, but when you go get a massage or you go to get a chiropractic adjustment, if there's no active care component in it, it will never improve.
Yeah.
because it's a passive solution. It's like a temporary realignment of something, or a temporary or externally imposed mandate to relax. And then as soon as you commit to the offending behavior again, you start that adding stones back onto that scale, where it just grows and grows
Mhm.
and grows. Even when you get someone who's really advanced and they say something like, oh, well, you should work out more. That's great. We are taking a big leap here in saying that whoever has recommended that you work out to alleviate your pain has also, in very advanced fashion, given you a correct type of protocol to be able to combat that. The problem there is that unless that is your whole workout and you perform it, 3 and 4 times a day, it's simply not going to be quantifiable or quantitative in regard to how often you perform the bad habit. And
Mhm.
so it might make minimal improvements, but it won't make major ones. A lifelong friend of mine who is a very successful chiropractor, he won't see anyone unless they get an X-ray.
Me too. My buddy
Yeah.
yesterday, I was talking about Dr. Kuvion.
Uh huh.
He was the first and only chiropractor I've ever seen, and their clinic that I saw him at made you. They had their own X-ray machine in there, and they did
Mm-hmm.
the X-rays, and everything was clear. And after he moved back to Louisiana, he even said that he's like, if you see anybody else, man, you need to make sure that they do X-rays. Don't let them skip. And there's like, I guess, two kind of schools of thought in there, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But if again money was no issue, um,
Yeah.
even like if I could before a workout, I would get
Mm-hmm.
a super badass deep tissue massage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because both of these practices they do allow for better movement, but if we don't train the better movement, what are we training, right? We're going to be training our habits. And the problem that I feel for a lot of people is, again, because it's a habit. What is a habit? It's a shortcut.
Yeah.
Why is it a shortcut? Because we want to save brain processes. We want to begin, not necessarily we want to be lazy, but we're just humans, right? Like,
Yeah. Wanting it to be better won't won't do it, right? And that's essentially what you're doing. Is you go, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop slouching. So you sit up straight, and that lasts for a second or two, like we've just been talking about. But the fact is that your attention to it is really, and I cannot overemphasize this. I cannot overemphasize how inconsequential you trying to stop doing it is going to be to the habits that you've developed. It really just doesn't matter, right? Like at all. It's not contributory for as far as relief goes. So instead, what I would encourage you to do is number one, understand trying to stop the habit will not work
no.
at all, right? Trying to stop doing the bad habit will not work. Number two, since that's the case, there needs to be an effective protocol that is identified and verified to work. And it needs to not mimic or not try and pacify, not mimic or pacify the offending behavior, right? So
Mhm.
if someone's telling you, like, you have bad posture, and their recommendation is, and I have seen this happen, my PT told me that I need to start doing more crunches, strengthen my core,
Right.
right? And they showed me the crunches, and it was just with more exacerbated shit. So that's not even a passive execution of the offending behavior. It is actively
Yeah.
developing the offending behavior. Now that leads into this other thing that we were talking about, which is like, whenever you say I work out a lot, to help with the pain, and it may,
Hmm.
right? But whenever you stop working out, or you go on vacation and the pain comes back, or whatever else,
Right.
it really is one of those things where mitigation hasn't occurred in the minimum amount necessary to make that pain tolerable.
Well, and the other thing I would add to you would is like I see this in like jujitsu a lot as well, and I feel this is probably the same thing. But when we're grappling with younger students, you will get them in some sort of Americana or Kimura attack,
Uh-huh.
and like you're just going for days trying to get them to finish and tap, right?
Yeah.
When we're younger, we do have more elasticity. We do
Sure.
have, and so there is that at play a little bit, I think, too, with the younger bodies. And as we do get older, we be not just mentally rigid, but we become more physically rigid. And part of that I think goes into, again, our adaptations, or again our bad habits and postures, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the thing here to remember is that stop trying to alleviate the problem by exacerbating the offending behavior, right?
Yeah, that's a
What
big
you
one.
what you want to do is to create a system, and it shouldn't be complex. If there's some kind of like lengthy ass protocol, you might be really willing to explore that when you're younger, or
Hmm.
you might have more time to devote to it when you're older. But eventually your patience for it is going to go out the window, right?
Yeah.
So number one, for all mobility related pain, right, that is habituated, we need to find a way to get at it that is approachable and repeatable, right?
Yeah.
And by approachable, I mean it's something where someone isn't going to say, well, just make sure you carry $7,000 worth of equipment with you, right?
Just keep your foam roller with you
Just
everywhere
keep
you
your yeah,
go.
keep your phone holder with you everywhere you go. You're at the bank, you're in line at the bank, your sciatica's bothering you, go ahead, just bust out the foam roller. That's not practical. It's not repeatable. It's fucking ridiculous.
Hmm.
But when you get exercises that are not approachable, or you get recommendations that aren't repeatable and they're complex or require some kind of special equipment or special room or whatever else, right? It's not repeatable, and so you'll leave it alone. Whatever protocol you arrive at, that it's repeatable, it's simple, right? And that it doesn't need to be done for a long time. It just needs to be done several times throughout the day, right?
Right.
Because in the end, the magic happens when you create a new habit that will eventually choke out the old habit.
Adaptation is just a skill, right? It's something that we've been dedicated to or devoted to, and that is what creates our adaptation. Compensation is our adaptations in motion. Like I typically will say to clients, like, "Hey, you're compensating, you're cheating, or whatever it is," and kind of to this last exercise we were doing, if we were doing it from a standing position, right?
Uh huh.
If we didn't have our stick or some sort of external balance, and we're trying to sass over, and we can hover that foot there for 10, 15 seconds, but then I was like, I want more, right? Give me more, right? Bring the pain. But then we start doing, like, our hips start coming way over and my body's over here. We've
Mm-hmm.
changed the exercise. This is no longer the same effort here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or if we
Yeah.
can't, if we're not able to sass, or we do sass and we have to balance to be able to keep our shoulders way over here, or again, we let the knee come caving in as we try to, I don't know how you would do that, but
Mm-hmm.
again,
You know.
anything that takes you out of that cookie cutter kind of shape,
Yeah.
you are now creating compensation, and it's because of adaptations of your joints, and how, again, this conservation of balance and all of these agreements that are required to keep you in this upright position, and not, again, like I said the other day, to keep your head from falling in your soup.
For anyone listening or watching or whatever, I would encourage you to rewind to the last 3 minutes and listen to that again, because that is quite simply the most important advice. I mean, really, out of all the shit that we've taught tonight, or any shit that we ever talk about balancing exercises and what you need to do to this and this and this, um, all of it is for absolute shit if that one premise is not observed. It it it's ineffectual, or you reduce the effectiveness of it from single digit to 100%, right?
Right.
It
And the
just
other thing I'd add to it, right, is you're
uh-huh.
in those moments where we're asking for injury. You may not be, like, consciously, but if you're in this kind of wobble weeble kind of a thing, and you're not really able to control where your body is, I mean, that's how we get some of those little sprains and tweaks and things that can kind of really make things worse. So again, less is more, and just try to keep to it.